So now dance is an integral part of the Indian subconscious, not merely as entertainment, but as integrated into her culture, festivities, and people. While there are officially 8 Indian classical dance forms, there are hundreds of folk dances that express the daily work and rituals of the Indian communities. The main feature of all Indian dance forms, whether it is classical or folk, is the integration of drama or aesthetic expression with nritya or graceful movements of the body. These are combined coherently for cognitive enhancement. This unique mix of addressing the physical, affective, and cognitive domains through dance ideally supports the principle of physical literacy. We now have great pleasure in presenting the postural highlights of 5 major dance forms of India: Bharatanatyam, Kuchipudi, Mohiniyattam, Odissi, and Kathak. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Geeta Krishnaraj, who will be taking this session. So briefly, I'm going to introduce this lovely lady, Geeta. Geeta Krishnaraj is a curator of physical literacy, having established the first physical literacy curriculum, Maverick Fit Kids, in schools in 2014. A classical Bharatanatyam dancer, choreographer, fitness entrepreneur, and practicing spiritualist, Geeta combines her expertise gained over various fields of professional work in a combinatory play to design the Maverick Fit Kids physical literacy curriculum. She is a member of the IPLA Education and Training Group and contributes to both the design and dissemination of IPLA's training programs. Geeta, we are all looking forward to this wonderful demo come educational clip that you have put up for us. So it's over to you.
Thank you so much, Sonali, and thank you all for being here. One of the primary philosophical underpinnings of physical literacy is the perspective of the embodied nature of human beings. Dr. Margaret Whitehead elaborates in her 2 books how the body is not an object or an instrument that needs to be deployed in functional situations like doing manual work, participating in sports, or even activities for health maintenance. According to her, embodiment is not an adjunct to human life, it is the primary basis of our existence. The concept of embodied nature of the human being may be new to the Western thinkers, but it is a very essential part of Indian philosophy, Advaita or non-duality. To embody means to represent a quality or an idea, and to the Indian mind, that quality of embodiment is represented in the concept of Lord Nataraja, the god of dance. One may wonder, why has this ancient culture chosen to depict the absolute reality as a dancer? Why not a painter or a sculptor? Well, when a poem is written, it becomes independent of the poet. A painting acquires an identity that is exclusive of the painter. The sculpture is indeed different from the sculptor, but the dancer and the dance are indivisible. You cannot see the dance without the dancer, and the dancer is not a dancer if she's not dancing. Embodied nature means to be the dance, which is imperceptible without the dancer, to become the activity rather than to do an action. In India, we have a plethora of dance forms, classical, folk, and tribal. I would like to highlight on some postural elements from 5 of the 8 classical dance forms of India, all of which have a common foundation in the Natya Shastra. Let me begin with my own chosen field of expression, Bharatanatyam. But I would urge you, we've been sitting for too long in this conference, I would urge you to get off your seats and just try these postures. They will give you a new enriching experience of connecting yourself to your body. And if you've never done classical dance forms before, this could really be an eye-opener of how your body feels when you're doing certain postures. So the main principle of Bharatanatyam is the Ayaka Mandala or the Aramandi, which is a half-sitting pose. And it defies the principle of not letting your knees cross your toes during a squat, because this is the pose. Your knees will definitely cross the toes. The spine is erect and the arms are outstretched in what we call as the Natyarambha. Here again, the elbows are not drooping. The elbows are turned inwards so that it is not seen. And in this pose, we begin to dance without getting up. So te yum ta ta te yum ta ta te yum ta ta te yum ta ta te te. I have a short clip for you of Bharatanatyam. Can we have that? So try this if you can. Keep your hands out wide and try sitting. And this is the beginning pose of Bharatanatyam. Unlike Bharatanatyam, which has a lot of geometric lines, and it does not accommodate the tilting of the pelvis or the hips, Kuchipudi is a more youthful art form. It has a very youthful appeal. It has a little bouncy up and down movement and a very graceful, mild tilt of the hips. So we go tajum tata, tajum tata, tajum tata, tajum tata. Try. There is a little squat, and then you stand, and there is a slight tilt of your hips. So try this pose. And we can have the next video, which shows a clip of my gurus, Sri Narasimhachari and Srimati Vasanta Lakshmi, performing Kuchipudi.
Tatum takatum tatarita takajanu toti tajum tato tatum takatum tatarita takajanu toti tajum tato tatum takatum tatarita takajanu tatum takatum tatarita takajanu tajum tato tadit tato dinakatadi tajum tato tadit tato dinakatadi tajum tato katadit tato dinakatadi.
Moving on to Mohiniyattam from Kerala. Here again, there's a lot of up and down movement, but it's not bouncy. So the feet are firmly on the ground or very close to the ground. And the sway comes from sitting and standing rather than the jumpy movement of Kuchipudi. So Mohiniyattam, if you are willing to try, you're on a squat with your feet wide apart. And it goes like this, or there's a lot of sway. We have a clip by Vijay Lakshmi Shivaji elegantly performing Mohiniyattam. Postural stance, the Tribhanga or the three bends is a very graceful and sensuous, but at the same time very sublime and aesthetic. Personally, I think it is the most difficult style because when you do this, it probably looks graceful, but even a little tilt and it can look very awkward. So the movement goes. Let's watch a short video clip by Kavita Dwivedi performing Odissi. This presentation, I have Kathak, which is unlike all the other styles discussed because it does not have a squatting posture. It's normally done erect and it has a lot of pirouettes and very fast footwork. So try this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Na, ding, ding, na, ding, ding, na, Let's have a clip by Nalini Kamalavi. So all the videos that were shown and the demos that I performed elaborated on the nritta or the physical movement patterns of Indian classical dance forms. But crucial to all Indian dance forms is the concept of abhinaya, or the emotional aspect that combines storytelling, which is a very integral part of all Indian dances. And of course, the rhythmic nuances, along with the combination of the physical movements and the expressive elements, make it cognitively very effective. In addition to the kinesthetic, cognitive, and affective aspects, a fourth dimension of Indian dance forms is its rather esoteric aspect of spirituality, a level of transcendence where the subject and object disappear and merely a stream of consciousness remains. That blissful state of cosmic embodiment of movement is the dance of Shiva, represented as Lord Nataraja. I stand in awe of that eternal cosmic dance and bow down reverentially, knowing that it embodies through me. Thank you all so much for sharing the joy of dance with me. Over, back to you, Sonali.
Beautiful, beautiful. It was such a pleasure. And I hope a lot of our participants have also tried the wonderful stances that you showed us. And it's been so insightful. Thank you, Geeta. We are now moving on to our next panel, which is on physical literacy for senior citizens. I now invite Dr. Tejal Kanwar to moderate this session. Dr. Kanwar contributes to physical literacy in India through community, schools, and online interventions for children. Her impact touch points have been more than 1,000 children. She is the founder of Kleinetics, a program for kids fitness aiming to motivate children through gamification to participate in sports and fitness. This intrinsic move to stir a change is an outcome of 20+ years of experience as a practicing surgeon and gynecologist specializing in adolescent health and PCOS. A very, very warm welcome to you, Tejal, and I hand the proceedings to you.
Thank you. After the wonderful eye-opening sessions and wonderful discussions on children, adults, PL, physical literacy, and so many beautiful people on the screen, seeing everyone dancing, it's the turn of the most experienced group, our seniors, our royals. I hereby welcome the 3 esteemed panelists from various backgrounds. And thank you so much to all of you all for accepting our invitation. I would like to start with introducing Mr. Somajit Ray. He has been playing an industry-leading role, specifically in the elder care space for over a decade now. With diverse experience in tech, real estate development, education, healthcare, growth, and senior care, he blends multi-industry knowledge and experience with great process designing. His passion for elder care and the product design construct of Imoha, which he heads in the country, emerges from his personal experience of taking care of his parents, in-laws, and years of working together with elders across the country. An architect and an MBA, he is a Young Leader Awardee at the ISB Hyderabad. Mr. Somajit has been a founding member of the award-winning Antara Senior Living. Sir, I welcome you to this panel.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Tejal.
Yeah, and Ms. Dinaz Verwathwala, the founder and CEO of Dinaz Fitness, is a renowned fitness professional, an entrepreneur, a Guinness record holder, a spiritual healer, an accident survivor, a wife, mother. These are just, I think, some of the few hats that you wear, ma'am. a TEDx speaker who has also presented several papers, published a lot of research. She's inspired the public through her shows. Having survived a fire accident which left her with horrific injuries, she realized the power of the mind in overcoming physical and mental roadblocks, and in recent years has developed a very different approach to fitness with a mind programming approach to fitness. We welcome you, ma'am. And last but not the least, the youngest member today, Mr. Ranganathan, an 87-year-old young man, a man who has come a long way from where people around him couldn't find fitness, to fitness being the only thing that is keeping his mind fresh and completely young. Sir, it's been a pleasure interacting with you in the last 1 month, and every time you pick up the phone, there's just so much warmth in whenever I've been interacting with you. Thank you so much, sir. Proving that age is just a number, an 87-year-old young man, let us hear from all three of y'all about physical literacy. I would like to, change the pattern a little bit by doing something like a rapid fire, because we've had people talking and sharing their experiences. So let's have some fun. And here's a rapid fire to all the three. We go one by one, starting with Ms. Dinaz, then Mr. Ray, and then to the young man. So Ms. Dinaz, a quick question. How would you personally define physical literacy?
Physical literacy for me is movement anytime, anywhere. Movement of the body anytime, anywhere.
That's great. That was really quick answer. Mr. Somajit, how would you personally define physical literacy?
First of all, thank you, Dr. Tejal, Amit. In my mind, when we look at EMOHA, we look at emotional and physical well-being. So in my mind, physical literacy is really to be comfortable in your own skin, in your persona, in your personality, and in the ecosystem that you are in. That balance is what I see as physical literacy.
Balance of mind, body, and in your personal space.
Absolutely.
Sir, how would you define physical literacy?
Literacy means awareness and also practice.
Awareness and practice. Let's move on to the next question. It's again a rapid fire. We are continuing. What are the interesting tips, Ms. Dinaz, and guidelines for senior citizens, since you've had so many years of experience and you've gone through hardships? What would you recommend seniors to make play and fun as a part of their lifestyle? What are the first three things that come to your mind for senior citizens to have a fun fitness or a fun mindfulness, something that really engages senior citizens? Any three things?
Thanks, Tejal. Firstly, they need to understand that age is only a number. The moment you understand that, you'll start moving all the time. Secondly, they need to cut out the negative mind chatter in their mind. I'm too old, I can't do this. And I could have done it, but I won't do it. Cut out the negative mind chatter. And thirdly, hang around youngsters, hang around the youth. And when you hang around the youth, you feel youthful yourself all the time.
I think that's really what seniors actually even want. They would love to hang around young people. Sir, over to you, Somajit, sir.
So, I have a slightly different view on this. I think in EMOHA, one of the things that we really try to do is to bring purpose and bring back relevance in an elder's life. Having played different roles all through life, if we are able to find friends, if we are able to find a purpose, it could be a hobby, it could be coming back to work, it could be adopting a school, it could be doing something, but finding this little reason why, you have something to look forward in a day. And the third is to, kind of have an active engagement program throughout the day, almost like a little bit of a going back to school and college. So if we are able to get our elders who have found, kind of a lot of elders have found loneliness as a huge challenge. If we can get them to have new friends, if they can have a lot of relevant activities they can do, and third, if they can have a routine over the day of fitness and programs, we found that very effective for our elders.
Yeah, I think group activities for any age group, whether
Absolutely.
as well as elders.
I have to share this, Dr. Tejal, when all of you first mentioned it, I was speaking to our physical trainer, and he mentioned that, as a physiotherapist and as a fitness counselor, the first 10 minutes of the show is the most interesting 10 minutes, and it has nothing to do with fitness. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. It's the first 10 minutes is pulling each other's leg and saying, Mr. Kapoor, you're looking handsome today, or you're looking so beautiful today. And it's that little pull and push that happens before the session starts that really motivates every elder to come back every day in the morning. So it's that balance, I think, is very, very important in a group setting.
Yes, sir. Mr. Ranganathan, how
Yeah,
would
I
you
think-
make play and fun part of fitness?
The one thing, you can start playing with your grandchildren. First, you also make them interested in the games, and second,
About physical literacy, I would like to, change the pattern a little bit by doing something like a rapid fire, because we've had people talking and sharing their experiences. So let's have some fun. And here's a rapid fire to all the three. We go one by one, starting with Miss Dinaz, then Mr. Ray, and then to the young man. So Miss Dinaz, a quick question. How would you personally define physical literacy?
Physical literacy for me is movement anytime, anywhere. Movement of the body anytime, anywhere.
That's great. That was really quick answer. Mr. Somajit, how would you personally define physical literacy?
First of all, thank you, Dr. Tejal, Amit. In my mind, when we look at EMOHA, we look at emotional and physical well-being. So in my mind, physical literacy is really to be comfortable in your own skin, in your persona, in your personality, and in the ecosystem that you are in. That balance is what I see as physical literacy.
Balance of mind, body, and in your personal space.
Absolutely.
Sir, how would you define physical literacy?
literacy means awareness and also practice.
Awareness and practice. Let's move on to the next question. It's again a rapid fire. We are continuing. What are the interesting tips, Ms. Dinaz, and guidelines for senior citizens, since you've had so many years of experience and you've gone through hardships? What would you recommend seniors to make play and fun as a part of their lifestyle? What are the first three things that come to your mind for senior citizens to have a fun fitness or a fun mindfulness, something that really engages senior citizens? Any three things?
Thanks, Tejal. Firstly, they need to understand that age is only a number. The moment you understand that, you'll start moving all the time. Secondly, they need to cut out the negative mind chatter in their mind. I'm too old. I can't do this. And I could have done it, but I won't do it. Cut out the negative mind chatter. And thirdly, hang around youngsters, hang around the youth. And when you hang around the youth, you feel youthful yourself all the time.
I think that's really what seniors actually even want. They would love to hang around young people. Sir, over to you, Somajit, sir.
So, I have a slightly different view on this. I think in EMOHA, one of the things that we really try to do is to bring purpose and bring back relevance in an elder's life. Having played different roles all through life, if we are able to find friends, if we are able to find a purpose, it could be a hobby, it could be coming back to work, it could be adopting a school, it could be doing something, but finding this little reason why you have something to look forward in a day. And the third is to kind of have an active engagement program throughout the day, almost like a little bit of a going back to school and college. So if we are able to get our elders who have found, kind of lot of elders have found loneliness as a huge challenge. If we can get them to have new friends, if they can have a lot of relevant activities they can do, and third, if they can have a routine over the day of fitness and programs, we found that very effective for our elders.
Yeah, I think group activities for any age group, whether
Absolutely.
as well as elders.
I have to share this, Dr. Tejal, when all of you first mentioned it, I was speaking to our physical trainer, and he mentioned that, as a physiotherapist and as a fitness counselor, the first 10 minutes of the show is the most interesting 10 minutes, and it has nothing to do with fitness. It's at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's the first 10 minutes is pulling each other's leg and saying, Mr. Kapoor, you're looking handsome today, or you're looking so beautiful today. And it's that little pull and push that happens before the session starts that really motivates every elder to come back every day in the morning. So it's that balance, I think, is very, very important in a group setting.
Yes, sir. Mr. Ranganathan, how
Yeah,
would
I
you
think-
make play and fun part of fitness?
The one thing you can start playing with your grandchildren. First, you also make them interested in the games. And secondly, you have to better to join a club where you will find slightly younger people also playing, and then they will not hesitate to take you in and then play with you. That way you can keep on playing your whatever games you have played earlier when you were younger and continue this healthy activity. I think joining the club is very crucial in this field.
Yes. Again, joining some kind of a group.
Yeah, some
and
clubs
people-
have even swimming pool. You can go there and swim there, play shuttle, which is not too taxing for the physical. You can easily play caroms.
Yes.
So there are so many other activities which you can continue.
Yes. Ms. Dinaz, in your journey from childhood to now, what would be the one thing that you would change in terms of better fitness?
To be able to be absolutely dedicated. I am very, very dedicated towards my physical fitness, but like all human beings, I also tend to slack sometimes. And that's one thing that I would like to change.
Yeah, even having that thought is also so important that we need to get more dedicated towards fitness. Yeah, Mr. Ray, what would you change?
No, I think I am 44 years old. I have my parents, my mom has in the last 10 years has had a lot of dementia-related challenges. She's been a school principal, still very active. I feel that, during schooling days, spiritual and mental strengths were never given importance. In fact, it was almost an afterthought. And while reading books on spirituality, I've been fortunate to reading from Quran to many other very beautiful literature and so on. I think general consciousness about mental well-being is something that is not taught, and I think that part of the consciousness needs to have significantly more awareness across, whether it is in schools, whether it is corporate, whether it is in society, neighborhood. We are all, the television channels have all made us go into sports thinking that is the only part, but I think the emotional and the physical, so nicely the yin and yang balance each other. So if I could go back, I would want to have more focused programs done on the emotional wellness side as well, because that is as important
already
as...
schools are talking about getting mental wellness into the school curriculum. I think that is something that everyone is now trying to focus on. Yes, Mr. Ranganathan, how would you change anything about your past?
I have tried various forms of exercises and bodybuilding, exercise, running, swimming, everything. But there is a stage where you can't do everything all the time. I will try and spend more time in the morning with the yogasanas, and walking will be in the evenings. This way I can spend enough time on asanas as well as walking.
More of yoga.
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Dinaz, if given a pair of shoes and stairs. What would you choose and why?
Shoes, because that will allow me to do whatever I want, whenever I want, wherever I want.
Awesome. Mr. Ray.
So I would choose for mat. I think mat is something that gives much more better support, particularly for elders, and it gives you an opportunity to spread your weight and slightly less chances of sustaining injuries, and kind of the pressure on joints and stuff is better. But would go for the mat.
Mat. So what would you choose? A mat, a pair of shoes?
My choice is stairs. The stairs are always, even in the house, when there is a lift, but I don't use a lift. I go down or I go up using the staircase. Staircase gives you better exercise. You don't have to spend special time for exercise. This is part of the exercise, everyday exercise. The staircase provides you ready-made exercise.
That's very creative. Yes. It's great that you're so creative even at this young age. Thank you. I would also like to now move on to slightly deeper questions, and some questions here for basically what is the concept behind IMOHA is what we want to understand, and how important is health and well-being in your priorities for the elder care that you have, the group of elders that you're taking care of, and what solutions have you implemented in terms of physical literacy for them? And the third question along with that is, what are the general myths that the children of the elders that you're taking care of, they have? What are the general misconceptions that they have about your organization, and how do you counter these solutions?
Thank you, Dr. Sejal. That was, let me try and put it in a sequence. My journey in IMOHA started with looking at various kind of solutions that are there. I come from a design background, architectural design background, and having spent last 12 years creating senior living facilities across the country. One thing which I realized is that elders don't want to move out of their own home. For them, the home is literally a place where everything, all memories, everything lie. And that's why if you look at the word IMOHA, let me show it on my diary. So if you see this word IMOHA, if you turn around the word IMOHA, it's a home. And it's a home because it's all about emotional happiness of the elder in your own home. And right at the center of the word IMOHA, there's Moh, which is in Hindi we call Mohabbat. And it's about love and care for elders. My parents have been active school principal. My dad has been a manufacturing industry person, and therefore elders will always command this kind of respect that they would, want to do. And at IMOHA, what we believe is that, with a country with 110 million elders, 40 million in urban areas and so on, it is high time that we as a nation decided what we want to do and how we want to kind of take care of elders, but in their own home. Why should an elder need to move out? In some ways, the Western concept of having elders moving into senior living facilities is not how we look at it in an Indian concept. And our elders will always be able to help the neighborhood becomes much more beautiful, much more kind of peaceful and interconnected. So IMOHA, we stitch the neighborhoods together. We are present in more than 80 cities and towns, and whether the sons and daughters stay in the same house or they stay in abroad, we help them with emergency healthcare services, and most importantly, engagement activities, funds and game activities as a membership. Members pay 1,000 rupees to 6,000 rupees a month. And, we have more than about 3,500 members now across the country. Enjoying life in their own home, enjoying independence in their own place, and being more safe, more healthy, all during the COVID time. So for me, the most important thing I think is that if you're an elder, become more active, do more things, don't limit yourself, don't hesitate to, come down on your activities. And the last part of your question about myths, particularly on physical literacy, at IMOHA, we have a very beautiful concept called MoTV. So MoTV is an online programming that happens on our app and on online channels, where 3 times in a day, there are engagement activities, exercises that happens. And it has become so popular because an elder from Kolkata, Pune, Delhi are actually interacting online and making friends with each other. So the myths that are there that, if you are aging, you don't have energy to exercise. I think those myths have gone finished. I have like our young person on the panel. Sir, we have a similar 93, 94-year-old in our organization. Left side was completely paralyzed and very senior Indian Oil director. Today, he's not only his paralysis has kind of improved, he started dancing. And this is the kind of thing that we feel that it also requires a little, I call it a push, a dhakka, a little drive from your friends who can urge you to, come to the class every day. So you can, of course, it doesn't matter what your age is, you can start, you will get the energy to exercise. And therefore there is no age bar. The other myth, which is very, very important, which I feel is that, mental, issues are there. And if the mental issues only exercises in the brain can help. The physical part is as important if you have mental related wellness challenges as mental part. So that balance, I think, is again very, very important, whether it is emotional or it is physical. Those I would say are the two key myths, Dr. Tejal, which at EMOHA it's a combined program that is able to address it once the basic needs of day-to-day life is managed.
So what are you doing to create awareness about your program, and how are you partnering? And so we need this, right? These kind of programs are so important for senior citizens.
So first of all, I think let me mention how sons and daughters typically feel about their parents being in elder care. There is this notion that if my parents are on an elder care program, it's not a good thing. We find that the bias of parents being on an elder care program is more with the children than with the parents. The parents are actually very comfortable, and therefore increasing awareness that if you are, crossing 55 and moving towards 60, it's very, very important that you have a proper program. We do a lot of digital related marketing. We have a lot of corporates who are signed up, whether it is the large companies like HCL or Mphasis or international companies like Cadence and so on. But at the same time, either with the government, I'm part of the national government program with the Ministry of Social Justice on how we can increase awareness of elder related programs. We have an industry body called the Association of Senior Living India with representation of more than 50 odd players across the country from Coimbatore to Chandigarh. All these programs are being done so that elders across the country know that, we will not have a situation in a society where elders will not have anybody to go to. Elder helplines have been created on the 1st October, like the beginning of this month itself on the International Elders Day. I was part of the session where the Vice President of India he launched the Elder Helpline. And these are small moves. These are incrementally small moves from a helpline number to more companies which are coming in the elder care space, that elders across the country will be able to know what they can do. At EMOHA, we have a lot of online programs. I urge everybody on the session to come see the website, see the YouTube channel. There are dedicated physical literacy programs which are there on the YouTube channel. From chair exercises to stair exercises to dementia exercises to finger exercises, different things that we keep on doing and make it fun, which I would urge you and your parents to become part of, because it's all done in a fun way. It's not done in a very regimented way. It's done in a fun way, and that helps because then elders like to kind of play over a week on those programs.
Yeah, thank you so much for that deep dive into EMOHA. Ms. Dinaz, what has been the key influence? You've donned so many hats, and for everything that you have done, every role that you have played, what are the key influences, any particular people, any experiences that you would like to share with us, especially focusing on the physical aspect, the physical fitness aspect, and the lifestyle that you are leading right now? What have been the key influences in your life?
I think the biggest experience that I would like to share is a couple of incidences that happened in my life. Is when in 2005, I met with a major fire accident. I was down to 53% burns. And the doctors told me that I would take a year, but I knew that I was on a mission to help people. So within 3 months, I came back to work, slightly disabled at that time, but I chose to be a role model, to help others, to be able to fight anything that they might face in their lives. And then in 2010, I did the world's longest aerobics marathon and entered the Guinness Book of World Records. Again, just to let people know that if I can do it for 26 hours non-stop, can you not move your body for an hour? So all this comes around only because I want other people to understand that it's not about me, it's about them, and understanding that they need to move their body, because if they procrastinate, they're going to be paying the price, if not today, 10 years from late, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. And today is not only about reaching a senior citizen age to be paying that price. Youngsters are paying that price, and it's really sad sometimes to see that people are not taking adequate action. So for me, being a role model so that people start taking adequate action is very important.
That's great. That's so important to create role models. So there are enough youth who are in trouble right now. You know, there are sedentary lifestyles, plus there is a huge menace of, I would call it a substance abuse in many colleges and universities and even in school
Absolutely.
level. Yes, so I think it's very important to have role models. More and more role models are required now to influence and inspire the youth. What are the main challenges that you're facing now at this age in terms of carrying out certain activities? For example, I know that you've been, doing this mind programming, and would you like to tell us a little more about that? And how are you creating awareness about your program, your current program that you have established?
Yeah, so firstly, regarding the challenges, honestly speaking, I face no challenges. I take everything the way it comes, and I use the power of my mind to overcome it. And so now I've got an online coaching program. So I moved away from being a fitness trainer to being a wellness coach. And I have people in my community. So it's a community-based program rather than let's go join a class today. It's not a membership. So it's a community-based program. And I encourage people to come and join the community where we support each other and I mentor them. I have theory sessions. I have inspiring speaking sessions for them. I have workout sessions for them. Then in turn, I encourage them to help each other. So all this is being run via Facebook and Instagram, and people are aware of these programs. I myself am very active on social media. I have a lot of presence on YouTube as well as Facebook and Instagram. People just find me, and the whole idea is I just give away a lot of content because I want people to move their bodies wherever they are.
Yeah, that is so important. Thank you so much for the insight. And let's move on to Sir, Mr. Ranganathan. I would like to ask you, what has been the key influence in your life for this very active lifestyle that you have been leading? Any particular person or any event that you would like to share with us? Any life-changing experiences?
First of all, in my family, almost all my brothers were doing exercises. Seeing each one of them doing exercise, I was inspired. And then my brother took me one All India bodybuilding and weightlifting exercise from contest. That day, I was totally inspired by the way the body can be chiseled and shaped, and then it was so nice. So I thought I must also do the exercise and then take care of my body. That's the best, most inspiring event of my life. That turned me. Then from that day onwards, I have been exercising regularly without fail. And I have become an inspiration for my own children and grandchildren and their friends. Now, a lot of them have taken up to exercise. In fact, I used to tell my grandchildren, do you want to spend time doing exercise or spend time waiting in the doctor's clinic? Which will you choose? You have to choose between these two.
Yes. I think becoming a role model for our children is very important because they totally now lead by example. And there are so many influences now for the younger generation, and they're distracted by various social media and, so many applications and devices that we definitely need. We as parents and grandparents, we are in a very different generation from our parents, and there is no playbook for parents that we have got received from our parents. So it's so important now to set an example for our children. So it's double the work. Actually, I do feel sometimes that I'm doing double the work than my mother did for me, and I literally have to put a lot more effort when I'm bringing up my children. So it's definitely a challenge in today's world. And with people like with people like all of you all, I think, yes, Mr. Ranganathan, you would like to say something.
Yes. I used to tell my children, yeah, if you want a good plant to come up, you have to have a good seed. And if you're not healthy, you will not have healthy children. This is very important. Take care of your health. Be a good, healthy parent, because your future generations will also be happy. I think the health runs in the veins of my family.
That's great. That's great. Thank you so much to all the panelists for this very, very fun session, I would say, a rapid fire. And you've been a great sport. And on behalf of IPLA, I would like to extend my huge gratitude for accepting the invitation, for coming and participating. Thank you very much. Sonali, back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tejan.
Thank you. Thank you, Teja, and all the panelists. It was really, really a wonderful session.